Monique van Wijnbergen. Monique is a Sustainability and Corporate Communication Director at Natural Habitats Group, just to as a general reminder. So, Monique, has the sustainable palm oil business in Ecuador been affected during the pandemic? And if yes, then in what way? Oh, your microphone, Monique.
On mute.
Yes, yeah. Yes, now it's on.
Yes, well, thanks. No, so I guess the first question, has our sustainable palm oil business been affected during the pandemic? Well, especially in the first wave, yes. And that was mainly due to the restrictions we were facing in accessibility and of course in local logistics. Mm-hmm. I guess like every other grower and processor, we had to make adjustments. Additional procedures in the mill. We had to set up additional collection centers because we were restricted in collection times, or farmers were restricted in being able to bring their harvested fruits. And we were also facing restrictions in visiting our farmers due to the lockdowns, but also, of course, some resistance from farmers to have people on site.
Okay. Okay.
And, for us, it's very important to do on-site pre-auditing. We had to move to remote auditing. So I would say that complicated things, but it was also a short period. For us, but also I guess in the sustainable movement to sustainable palm oil in general, I guess the restrictions we had were in the outreach to get new farmers on board. So in scaling our organic and sustainable supply, since we're operating a conversion model where we transition farmers from conventional farming to organic and sustainable farming, we need those on-site visits. We need to get farmers on board. We need to train them, support them, pre-audit them. So all these things were restricted. So yes, there has been an effect in the way we operate our business. What we're seeing right now, which has a very impactful effect, is, and that started to service about October, November last year, is the increase in fresh fruit punch prices, which of course are also directly our buying prices. Is that a result of the pandemic, or is it other global market influences, or is it both? The premium we are paying on top of conventional fresh fruit punch prices is the incentive for farmers to convert from conventional to sustainable farming. And because the conventional fresh fruit punch prices already fetch high prices right now, which already bring a good profit for the farmers, of course that has a potential effect on the willingness to convert to organic and sustainable practices. So that has an effect on the sustainable palm business, I would say.
Right. Okay. So just kind of might be asking a more specific question. So your company operates a vertically integrated supply chain. So you control production, supply, and distribution for the palm oil production. During the pandemic, it is exactly the supply chains that were affected really dramatically, disrupted all over the world. Have you noticed benefits of your integrated supply chain model during the pandemic? Has it proved to be more viable over a crisis such as the pandemic?
Yeah. Well, that has helped. But one correction is that I need to make is that we don't control production so much, since we work with independent farmers, and these farmers are not bound to deliver their fresh fruit punches to us. They can deliver to any mill, and as I just described, we have some challenges there. But yes, our vertically integrated supply chain has been key in withstanding some of the effects of the pandemic. Our logistics teams, both in Ecuador but also in our key market in the US, were able to anticipate supply chain disruptions, and we're able to come up with solutions. And especially during the first wave, when prices were still stable, our direct relationship with our farmers helped secure our fruit supply. We know all of the farmers. We visit them every 4 to 6 weeks. We are in good communication. We provided support to them. And that really secured the supply of fresh fruit to us, which is, of course, very important. And I think we were also able to quickly adjust our collection of fresh fruit to the local restrictions that were imposed. So being able to continue that flow of fruit supply, operating our own mill, working with a dedicated local processor really helped us to keep a continuous flow in our supply chain. So we could continue to supply our markets. And on the market side, because we're not only working very closely to the producers, but on the market side, we're also working very closely to brokers, distributors, but also to our customers, so our manufacturers. So we were able to increase stock to anticipate potential supply issues. So yes, integrated supply chain definitely was very important for this during this pandemic.
Did you see the maybe the conventional, more of a conventional farmer seeing those benefits during the pandemic, especially during the most vulnerable period of pandemic, and kind of turning?
Yeah, I can't say that so much. I mean, especially since we focus so much on our own farmers. So I can't say that is the case. So I can really speak for our supply chain, and there I can say yes, it did help.
Yeah. Okay. Is the generally now let's turning to the sustainability and the reputation side of the palm oil. Is it generally accepted, rather, we can call it, dubious reputation of palm oil standing on the way of organic, sustainably produced palm oil in the Western world? I mean, in the eyes of Western consumers, and generally in the eyes of consumers. And how do you overcome those obstacles and reach customers?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, because you can really address it or look at it from two different ways. So yes, of course, there is a negative impact. On the one hand, that negative impact makes that we need to go great lengths to convince manufacturers or brands to continue using palm oil, considering their critical consumers that are questioning their use of palm oil for the sake of environment and local communities. So clearly the easy way for these manufacturers would be to reformulate their products so they don't have to deal with uneasy questions from critical consumers or potentially losing consumers. Yet I would say the functional benefits of palm oil, which lead to better performing products, also makes it hard to move away from palm oil altogether. So that's one side. On the other hand, interestingly, the continuously negative messaging around destructive palm oil, or some activists like to call it conflict or dirty palm oil, in a way it also provides us some space, or almost like an extreme contrast, to tell our story about what we call palm right. I mean, because palm right is at the complete other end of the spectrum compared to the messaging around destructive palm oil, palm right is organic, it's deforestation-free, wildlife-friendly, fair and social. And the production model that we operate is so different from what is shown in the media. I see that contrast is also accepted as a solution. So I would say there are two sides to this. So how do we overcome the obstacles to reach customers? Well, I think it's a constant awareness raising, a constant education on the important benefits of palm oil that are often disregarded. Its productivity. I mean, palm oil outperforms any other vegetable crop when we look at the productivity, which makes palm oil as a crop sustainable by default. The economic benefits it brings, in the producing countries, providing jobs and incomes to millions of people around the globe, but also on the market side, its functional benefits, which also outperform a lot of alternatives. So through our Palm Right campaign, especially in the US, we are constantly educating retailers, manufacturers, consumers, showing them that sustainable palm oil is the solution. So yes, it takes efforts, but I see that our message is resonating in the market because we're showing that sustainable palm oil is a reality. And it can be produced responsibly. So I think that's very important. And what we've learned over the last 10 years is that we really need to show and we need to tell, we need to bring manufacturers to Ecuador so they can see for themselves what it means to produce palm oil sustainably, and also to show the benefits that it brings.
Can I just ask, does that always help, or is there sometimes situations when you communicate to the, let's say customer or organization, and you convince them that this is sustainable palm oil, especially if we're talking about a more Western inclined customer, and they say no, it's palm oil still, it's still palm oil.
Well, this is, I guess, what we're also doing with Palmen, right? I mean, for us, it's also a call to action to manufacturers to have a conversation with their consumers. Because for me, so we have had manufacturers or customers who are on board, but in the end, they're still getting questions from critical consumers, which in the end makes them drop it altogether. But I guess it is also a job of brands and retailers to educate consumers. And this is also what we basically provide them with materials. We provide them with a lot of support to tell that story, because the easy way is to drop it all together. But I think, and this is again a call to action to brands and retailers, that they are part of the solution. They are part of showing that sustainable palm oil is the way forward, and they have a role there to play as well.
No, okay, I think it is a good solution to just educate people that there is a way here. So okay, let me ask you the last question for you. What kind of innovations do you expect the industry to be introducing or having in the next few years, be it in terms of production, marketing, logistics, operations, or targeting onto new emerging markets?
Yeah, well, I find it difficult really to talk about expectations about the palm oil industry in general, since we're really focused on this niche of organic palm oil. So I'll keep it close to our niche and our customer base. So in our markets, the US and Europe, and that's not necessarily an innovation, but rather a bigger push. And that is a further move towards transparency and full traceability, also in derivatives, because of the ruling, but also the commitments to deforestation-free supply chain. So it's not really an innovation, but this will have implications, of course, in the way our supply chains are set up. We're also seeing a move to adopting green sciences approach, using ingredients from renewable plant-based sources, especially also in the cosmetics industry, where L'Oreal has publicly committed to that. What we're seeing in our niche, so the organic niche, talking to our biggest customers, but also large US retailers, we see a push to moving towards regenerative organic practices. We're already seeing that in other crops. It is a challenge to adopt it in palm oil. We are field testing that, but it's definitely a movement which we see in the US. But of course, we will need to see market uptake, but also reward for moving into this direction. And another observation, but that's really a question, is, is there a future for lab-based oils and fats? This is where we see some innovation happening, just as we're seeing in the animal protein market. I mean, is this something for oils and fats in general? But that's a big question mark. So where would that be heading?
Okay, wow. No, it seems like there's, even though there's already, even though we're already talking in terms of sustainably grown and produced palm oil, there is still a lot of room to go. Yeah. Okay. No, thanks, Monique, a lot for your contributions. I will now turn